we've seen people who've been on asthma pumps for 25 years go off the asthma pump completely within a few doses of taking Ware Jakob. We've got microbes, more microbial life on us than we have body cells. We could not function without microbes. Your stomach is not what's breaking down the food and eating it. It's the microbes in your stomach that breaks down the food and makes it available for the rest of the body to absorb.
Greetings, seekers of ancient wisdom, and we're back today talking about the gut, one of the most important organs or systems in our body. And to talk about healthy gut, I'm joined by Nikki Cruden. Nikki, welcome to the show, and how are you doing today?
Hi, Deepa, thank you. I'm doing very well, thank you. Lovely hot summer here in Africa and along the East Coast. And welcome to all the visitors, the guests. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to talk about this topic because I've been focusing on the gut as part of how I treat my patients for a long, long time. The gut is so important because everything we eat has to be digested through our gut, our stomach, intestines, large intestines. And I learned that there's little bacteria or gut microbiome is what they call it, that live in our stomach and our intestines, and they help to break down foods. Now it gets more complex because now you have thousands of different types of gut microbiome, and some are very good and some are very bad. But it gets even more complicated because the bad ones are also good. So it's about really imagining the right balance that our gut needs of different types of microbiome. Now, very unhealthy guts will have more bad gut microbiome, right? They'll have more of the bad gut bacteria. And this has so many ramifications throughout the whole body. As soon as your digestion is bad, it's going to affect your liver, the gallbladder, your kidneys, your hormone endocrine system, your bones, your joints and ligaments, brain fog. So many things are downstream effects of having a bad gut or bad microbiome or a poor digestive system. So, Nikki, I mean, in your experience, why is the product that we're going to talk about, why is that so so much better than what's available on the market?
Okay, so we're talking about gut microbes, and it takes a lifetime to build up a wide, diverse range of gut microbes. And that build-up starts actually in the womb. It continues through your birth process. So were you birthed naturally? How were you fed as a baby? Were you breastfed? All these different ways of raising and birthing our children affects the gut microbes. And then, of course, what are you eating? Are you eating organic food, which is actually where our microbes come from? Or are you eating processed food, which actually damages the gut microbe? So why are these different to other probiotics? So there's so many probiotics and gut microbes available on the market. But the Ware Jakob are African microbes. They are microbes that have been sourced from the soil in rare, untouched, undamaged by human intervention microbes. So as soon as man goes into an area and he starts to plow the soil, he starts damaging the microbial life in the soil right there, because those microbes do not like to be exposed to the sun or to directly to the air. So a lot of that mycelium network, which is the communication network of plants, they communicate under the ground via the ribosome sphere. So that's through your mycelium, which is a type of fungi. So when you damage the soil, you damage the microbial life in the soil, and that affects how the plant grows, and that affects the microbes that we ultimately eat when we eat our fresh fruit and vegetables. So we've seen a lot of modern day illnesses develop. I included developed ME fatigue syndrome in my 20s and had a full recovery by changing my diet, and then realized I need to grow my own food because you can't actually trust what you're buying in the shop. They treat it with pheromones and all kinds of things to extend the shelf life, to make it ripen quickly, to change color. And the meat is even worse. They treat it with antibiotics, with hormones. These affect us, and that's why we're seeing children, especially girls, go into puberty at a very, very young age. So what we eat definitely affects us, and your gut microbes. We've also seen your gut microbes is what's responsible for breaking down the food and making the nutrients available to your body. So the first line is your brain. So through the vagus nerve, it's a nerve connected from the gut to the brain. So your gut and brain communicate constantly to each other. You normally get a first message to the gut. You get a gut feel, or in our language, there are actually clues built into our language. The gut is so important. And those microbes in our gut are food specific. So what we've seen now is people who are lactose intolerant are actually telling us they don't have lactobacillus microbes in the gut. So as soon as those microbes are replaced and replenished in the gut, that food intolerance has disappeared. We've seen similar things with asthma is a very big one, asthma and emphysema. We've seen people who've been on asthma pumps for 25 years go off the asthma pump completely within a few doses of taking Ware Jakob. Diabetes is another big one. That they are so susceptible and prone to skin rashes and stuff. So your skin is the biggest organ in the body, and it's telling you what's going on inside the body. When you go to the doctor, he's going to treat the rash on the skin. He's not going to look at the cause. And 99% of the time, all your allergy and body reactions stem from something that started in the gut. There are thousands and millions of different types of microbes. Your body has got microbes everywhere, in your nose, in your mouth, in your ears, down your throat, in your gut. Your small intestine, your large intestine, they've got completely different types of microbes in that area. So where microbes are, they help break down the nutrient into a form that the body is able to absorb. So people who suffer from bloating, eat a lot of wheat, genetically modified foods, you can see they're very swollen, their skin is puffed, they're very swollen. It's generally because they don't have the microbes to break down gluten in the gut. And it causes constipation, dry gut syndrome, diarrhea. So by treating the gut, you actually deal with a lot of ailments, including dementia. So latest tests have shown that dementia's got a lot to do with your gut microbes. The reason why you want to use Ware Jakob is because there's over 50 different genera of bacteria and over 20 different genera of fungi. So to have a wide, diverse array of bacteria and fungi that work together is why our product is so different and so unique. So just like you don't find the big five in other continents, you won't find African microbes on other continents. And I can use the same example with our trees, our birds, our insects, our butterflies. We are the Garden of Eden. We've got such a vast array of fauna and flora. And I think that's got a lot to do with our soil, which is where the microbes are hiding. So it's very important to understand the importance of pathogens pathogenic microbes, the bad guys, they're normally anaerobic, and the good guys are normally aerobic. So it's not the case in 100% of cases. I'm now generalizing, explaining in a simple form. And these guys can hide in the soil for hundreds of years. So germs have killed more people on this planet than anything else, all the wars put together. Germs are actually something to pay attention to. And we've seen some vicious bacteria fly through South Africa. For example, the foot and mouth that's going rampant amongst the hoofed animals. And um, in our areas where we're subtropical, we've got a fungal virus going around, Fusarium oxysporum. And we're actually sitting in a crisis because companies like Honest to Put, who would be doing research and coming out with solutions and getting the communication out, they've basically crumbled. So our veterinary microbiology departments, now that we really need them, yeah, the 30% pass rate's now catching up to us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Nikki, I mean, this is so fascinating that it's actually microbes that are from the soil. And you explained how important it was that you don't damage the soil when you harvest them, and you have to somehow get this bacteria from the soil, and then you started growing it and giving it to people, I guess, and seeing all these amazing results. So, my question, I guess, is how do you actually harvest this microbe, because it's in the soil, and how do you actually get it out of the soil without harming it?
Yeah, so that's the department for the agronomists, which I am unfortunately not. Um, and there's a lot of science behind that. So it's almost like making a compost tea. And the sites where, they've been harvesting these microbes are around Africa. So they're difficult to get to places. As I said, there's been no human impact. Anywhere where humans live, they have an impact on the soil. So what we've seen in the last 10 years is detrimental damage to the environment, and that affects our microbes. So more than ever, it's so important now to be brewing these microbes in as many locations as possible, get them back into the soil, back into our food system. And we've seen a huge improvement on health by using microbial warfare, if you like.
Okay. So the different, you said there's like 50 different bacteria, I think, and you said about 20 different fungi. Are all of these are all of these actually good for our gut? And I mean, and I guess my question is, because our guts don't have these bacteria, right? Because they're very unique and from unique locations around the world where people actually aren't. So you're putting a completely new species of bacteria into the digestive system. It's like maybe taking a kangaroo from Australia to Africa and releasing it in the wild. Um, how is this going to affect our system, right? Because it's a completely foreign bacteria that our bodies haven't ever come across.
So I would disagree with you. They're not foreign bacteria that our bodies have come across. They are bacteria that our body has lost through modern lifestyle, through going on antibiotics, through stress, through emotional trauma. These things all have a major impact on our gut microbes. So it's not foreign, it's actually what our body is missing. And what the scientists and microbiologists are finding is that people who live a much longer life, so over 100 years old, and especially over 114 years old, all have similar microbes in their gut, archaea microbes. So, we were talking about 50 different bacteria genera. There are hundreds and thousands of different species within a genera. So we're talking about millions, millions. And so we didn't know, mankind didn't know about what we're discovering now because we didn't have electron microscopes, that have such very large magnification. So, and now we can film it, record it, take photographs, analyze. We can observe their reactions to each other because certain microbes eat themselves, other microbes eat the excrement, the enzymes. So microbes create enzymes. Enzymes are protein. Protein is vital for muscle, brain function, etc. So I'm not a doctor, a scientist, an agronomist. So, but I obviously have an understanding of this stuff because it's vitally important. Plants and animals actually function very, very similarly. So, for example, most animals on the farm, ruminants, have got 4-chambered stomachs. The system still works the same as ours does, a single-chambered stomach. You still need very specific microbes in specific areas. So, our farmers have suffered from drought, we've suffered from fires, and the animals, the livestock, have obviously taken a knock from this. So when, for example, let's talk about foot and mouth for a minute. I see yesterday there was a video going, they're busy burning the felt. And I think that's a brilliant idea because microbes generally can't survive heat over 30 to 50 degrees. So you're getting rid of the bacterial virus. But remember, microbes are everywhere. They're in the soil, they're in the air, they're attached to any organic material. They're on your shoes, on the car tires, on your farm equipment, they're everywhere. So by treating just the animal is not actually sufficient enough because the microbes spread. The bacteria doubles in the laboratory every 20 minutes. The fungi doubles every 4 hours. So you can imagine there's an explosion of these guys wherever they take foot. So the right way to deal with this is to put their natural enemy into the system. So you're going to treat the farm externally and internally. You're going to treat the wound directly. You're going to treat the stomach by putting it in their food and in their water. You're going to treat the environment, especially where the manure is, because that's where the bacterial infection is spreading through the manure. So you're going to treat all those areas with microbes. And that's how you actually fight it effectively. And you'll do the same with the body. So if you've got a rash on your skin, you're going to treat it externally, spray it on or slap it on with a hand, and then drink it internally. So you're building up a natural resistance starting in the gut.
Okay, okay. So this is, it's interesting that you mentioned this. Ware Jakob actually helps animals and people, even though you mentioned this, the cow has a 4-chamber stomach, right? It's very different to our single-chamber stomach, but it still helps the cows. It helps all the other hooved animals. It also helps people. So how does that work that some bacteria is beneficial across all these different types of mammals? It's quite phenomenal, right?
Yeah, so nothing would survive without microbes. Microbes is the starting building blocks of life. We've got microbes, more microbial life on us than we have body cells. We could not function without microbes. Your stomach is not what's breaking down the food and eating it. It's the microbes in your stomach that breaks down the food and makes it available for the rest of the body to absorb. So it's the same in the soil. It's the microbes in the soil that breaks down your organic matter so that it makes your nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. available to the plant in a form that it can absorb. Unlike chemical fertilizers, plants can't absorb most of that, so it leaches into the soil. You need microbes to break it down. It's just like your minerals are stored in your rocks. and you need microbes to break down those minerals in the rock. So we're talking over thousands of years. They put those minerals back into the soil. It's not the sun and the wind that makes it available, it's the microbes. So, yeah, this product was developed for the farmers by the late Nico Snyman. And initially, because the farm his son was farming on in Central Africa was not producing, he couldn't grow anything. And it took them a few years to come up with a solution, but they realized the problem was that there was absolutely no life left in the soil. The soil was completely devoid of life, and that was from years of plowing and chemical fertilizers. So when you're sitting with a situation like that, it does take a few years of rehabilitating to get your soil back to a normal state where you don't need to be watering regularly. The soil acts like a sponge. The plants distribute nutrients to each other under the ground. So you have a closed system. So it's actually much cheaper to farm this way once you've got the system up and running. Your vegetables and fruit have a much higher nutrient value. They are much larger in size. So, and it's the same with the gut. And so what we've seen on the farms is, especially with the drought, there was in places available feed for the animals, but they were suffering from malnutrition because their bodies were unable to absorb the nutrients in the veld. So on our Northern Cape farm, what we did there, the farmer would bring his sheep, it's a sheep farm, and bring the sheep to our area where we would treat them for 2 weeks on a daily basis and before they went to market. So until they reach a certain body weight, you can't actually send them to the abattoir or the auction. And they arrived there looking like little stick sheep, and within 2 weeks they put on a substantial amount of weight. Then we also noticed other things like the farmer had the sheep on fattening feed, and the sheep that were not treated with Ware Jakob actually got diarrhea. So not only were they not able to absorb all that nutrient, they actually lost it all through diarrhea. So the sheep that were fed Ware Jakob did not get diarrhea and obviously put on weight faster. So we've done a lot of these trials over the years. It's very obvious the benefits when you see it. So I've got a lot of family. I've got a very large family, and a lot of my family members are quite ill. So we thought, well, let's try the Ware Jakob on some of them because maybe we'll see the same results as we have on the farms. And indeed, that was the case. And people are able to explain in words, their experience. And wow, that has been such an experience. It's been mind-boggling, very eye-opening what happens when you fix the microbes in the gut. It changes your mood, your level of concentration, your entire well-being is completely swung around by fixing the gut microbes. I can see my own little dog, she's quite old. She was on her deathbed about 2 years ago. She's been on Ware Jakob permanently for about a year. And it took about 9 months before she got her spring back in her walk. It looks like her eyesight's improved. She's got a little bit of hearing back. So, yeah, the effects are phenomenal. We've done quite a lot of tests on home pets because there you can see the results much easier because people monitor their pets. And even dreadful viruses like parvo, the parvo virus. There was a parvovirus epidemic here in April last year, and all the puppies who were administered Ware Jakob recovered within an hour. And I was really blown over by that. I really thought one of the puppies wasn't going to make it because he was going into convulsions regularly, and he had a full recovery. So it's been very beneficial having friends and family. Sorry?
So I'm very curious. I wanted to understand the soil because you mentioned the first thing was about the soil was in very poor condition from using fertilizer, artificial fertilizer and um, maybe monoculture and just the way that they had farmed. And then this gentleman, Nico Sneeman, how did he use the Ware Jakob on his soil? Did he just like spray it on, like dilute it and then spray it on the soil? Um, and then that's it. And then just waited a few years.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, how Nico's name, and he trained over a dozen people how to brew this stuff. And one of those people is one of our members in Mother's Mission, MMR, our retreat, our farm projects. And so what we do is we actually teach farmers how to brew this on site. So it's like brewing beer or wine or whatever, kombucha. It actually even tastes like kombucha when it's fresh. It's a 21-day brew. Um, so the microbes are very important. What you put in there, your starter seed, is extremely important. So that we really look after and treasure the actual Ware seed, and so you can brew any quantity. We've recently started making this available to the smaller home end user, like the garden markets. Our small brew packs start at 10 liters, but normally farmers will brew 1,000 liters at a time, normally in a flow tank, and then they'll put that into their irrigation system. So when you're treating damaged soil, when you or rehabilitating your soil, what you're going to do is put an enormous amount of mulch and manure. Manure is very important. So there's a lot of microbes in manure. And you're going to deep roll that. So that's a 1/2 meter trenching into the soil. So this will be the last time you actually dig into the soil. And while you're doing this, you're going to irrigate this and spread the microbes into this mulch manure mixture. And ideally, you want to have a layer of 15 centimeters, because that's more or less where most of your soil life is, 15 to 30 centimeters. And you're going to leave that for a few days. If you've got a few weeks, even better. So this process you want to do at the end of the day. So you don't want to expose the microbes to heat and sunlight for extended periods. So you're going to do it at the end of the day. Then water this lot very, very well. And within a few weeks, your soil is ready to plant. And what most farmers do, and I do the same, is I put it in my irrigation system so the plants are getting a regular dose. I've used and do use this for a lot of parasites on the plant. So, for example, scale's a terrible one. And we have different types of scale, and they suck out the life out of the plant. So Ware Jakob also eliminates scale. It reduces eelworm in the soil. That's a killer for the mealie farmers, because eelworm is going to basically head for the weakest plant. So any plant that has a weak soil root system, it's going to hit that plant first. So by strengthening your root system of your plant, so you're going to have better results, fruit and vegetable results. Stronger roots also reduces your infection of parasites. Like, for example, as I said, eelworm is a terrible one. Yeah, there's lots of problems in the soil, fungal, bacterial infection.
The amazing thing is all these trials that you did with the farms, because you actually tested this on soil, and then you started testing this product with the farm animals, right? The sheep and the cows and all the farm animals. So the jump to humans was maybe a bit of a leap, but you did it with your own family and noticed such amazing results, so many things getting cured just by putting these gut microbes back in the system, and ancient ones, right? So it's stuff that maybe our bodies, like you said, used to have, but we've forgotten through our present day food and diet and lifestyle and just the things we're exposed to has destroyed the gut balance, an optimum gut balance. And having this soil microbiome helps the soil, it helps the animals, and it also helps the people. And like you said, because this is the baseline, the pillar of everything, there's microbes everywhere. They're breaking down food, breaking down things, breaking down rocks, breaking down dead plants, breaking down food everywhere. So they really are the key, and fixing that fixes our system. And I guess we as people forget that we are so much actual bacteria. Like you said, there's more bacteria in us, in a healthy person, than actual skin cells, or maybe even cells for that matter. There's more microbes. So they actually are really the key, and understanding them and keeping them balanced and keeping them diverse and in the right equilibrium really then brings natural homeostasis to the rest of our being. It actually makes sense now because that is a very important key.